Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Cash. I haven't posted in a while, so I wanted to post today to just talk to you guys briefly. This is probably just going to be like a pretty short post, kind of just updating you on all of the things that I've been involved with lately. Um, the point of this stream was really to kind of talk about learning how to expand your horizons, really to open up yourself to more opportunities for professional growth. Me myself, recently, probably within the last 2 years, I decided that I needed to do more to really involve myself within my profession. And so basically, what that meant to me was, I had spent and dedicated so much time to my education, going to school to get my bachelor's degree in being a bedside nurse, and then deciding I wanted to become a nurse practitioner and be a little bit more involved in making the decisions and diagnosing patients. So then going back for my master's degree, and then ultimately going for my doctorate degree to get my terminal degree, wanting to being able to expand my horizons later on, thinking that maybe I want to teach someday, maybe I want to be more involved in education. And so I decided that I would go and do my doctorate degree. Well, I graduated with my doctorate degree in 2013, and since then I pretty much have done quite a lot clinically in terms of my practice. I was working in family practice for a long period of time, and then decided I didn't want to do that anymore, and then went into dermatology. And what I found was, once I got into dermatology and I got really comfortable with that, and I kind of really knew the ropes and kind of knew what I was doing, that I realized that I needed a little bit more. I'd always been a person who felt like I needed a little bit more in life, whether it be school, extracurricular activities, clubs, sport. I always felt like I was a person who needed to keep busy and needed to be challenged. And so I felt like in my professional life, I wasn't being challenged enough clinically. Right. I mean, medical, surgical dermatology, cosmetic dermatology is challenging, but it's challenging in a different way. What I realized was that I really wanted to do more, that I wanted to give back to my profession, that I wanted to be more involved in some of the other aspects of being a healthcare provider, being a professional nurse practitioner. So, with that being said, I made the decision probably about 2 to 3 years ago that I was really going to make it a point to become more involved within my profession and add more substance to my career and to what I do on a daily basis in terms of giving back. So, some of the things that you can do to become more involved, and some of the first steps that I took was just to kind of just reach out. I was an avid reader of the Journal of the Dermatology Nurses Association, which is the journal for the Dermatology Nurses Association. And there was an article in there that was calling for peer reviewers. And I thought, well, this is great because I love to read. And so, when I'm already reading this journal, well, why not contribute to the profession by peer reviewing these articles for the journal that I love to read so much? And it would be good for my profession. It'll give me practice. And besides that, it'll give me access to, new and upcoming information. It'll keep me up to date on, what the current trends are, keep me up to date on, formatting, new and upcoming research, all of these things. And so by being a peer reviewer, what I learned was that I actually really, really liked peer reviewing. It was enjoyable to me. It doesn't really take up a lot of time for me to do it, so it's not a big commitment, and it allowed me to dive deeper into some topics and things that were being discussed in the journal and that were going to be printed in the journal. And so I peer reviewed for JDNA, and I still peer review for the JDNA, and I've been doing that now for about 5 years. And so through that, I actually got noticed by the editor in chief of the magazine, and she reached out to me and asked me to be a part of the editorial advisory board. And so I say that because I'm now a member of the editorial advisory board for the JDNA, and I still peer review for the JDNA. I've been on the editorial advisory board for a little over a year now. The commitment is really not a lot. We meet bi-monthly for about an hour, and each month we kind of talk about, every other month we kind of talk about some of the things that we want to see happen with the journal, maybe some of the current trends, maybe some of the current topics, kind of like what we have in inventory as far as what's going to be up and coming. We talk about, maybe conference, things like that, recruiting new people to come and be peer reviewers for the journal, soliciting publications and manuscripts, and attending some minor functions that may or may not be related to the journal and or the Dermatology Nurses Association. And so being on the editorial advisory board has been quite a rewarding experience. And I really enjoy it because I feel like I have a little bit of say in what is actually being put into the journal that our membership is actually that our membership is able to read. I'm putting some stock into the educational value of my fellow peers and my fellow colleagues. And so my point in saying that is I kind of encourage you guys to consider doing that. We always need peer reviewers for the journal. It's very helpful for us to have new eyes and people who are willing to do that, because that is the basis of our journal, to be peer reviewed. That's what helps it to be one of the most recognized journals for nurse practitioners and physician assistants, and for other healthcare professionals as well, LPNs, medical assistants, other registered nurses, other people that work in the field of dermatology. So I think that that's important. Part of the reason and some of the ways that you can become part of an editorial advisory board is to start with peer reviewing. And so if that's something that you can aspire to be or are thinking about, maybe consider peer reviewing for your favorite journal. And maybe after you've done, whatever, several reviews, based on the quality of your reviews, the content of your reviews, the thoughtful comments in your reviews, you may be asked to be on an editorial advisory board. So think about that. That is a potential way for you to expand your professional horizons. And so I really enjoy doing that. And that's something that I've been doing for a couple of years now. Some of the other things you can do is, besides that, you can also just be more involved in your professional organizations. So as part of the Dermatology Nurses Association, obviously, I just talked about being on the editorial advisory board. This year, I was also on the nominating committee, and I ran for that as part of our national election. And nominating committee essentially basically helps to put together a slate of candidates for the upcoming election. We score the candidates and then we present them to the board of directors for the Dermatology Nurses Association. Well, this year was a little bit different because COVID had kind of changed and or altered maybe the way that they traditionally do things. And so we had a hard time finding our slate of candidates to present to the board of directors this year. I really think that a lot of the problem that we had was just because people were busy. People were realizing that maybe they wanted to spend more time with their family and their friends. Maybe they didn't want to commit so much to volunteerism and being as active in the community as far as the professional community of the association, or maybe they just realized that they had maybe too many things that they were committed to and they wanted to scale back. So we had a hard time trying to find a lot of candidates, but we wind up finding enough candidates to present to the board of directors. I was actually nominated to be considered for the board of directors based on my participation with the Dermatology Nurses Association and being on the nominating committee, and also being a part of the editorial advisory board. And so when asked, I decided that I would go ahead and apply to be on the board of directors and be a director. Now, that was not something that I initially had thought that I would be, that is not something that I initially thought that I would think that I would do, right? I started off with just doing the nominating committee, kind of trying to put myself out there, trying to be more involved actively in the national organization. And I found that I really enjoyed it. The commitment wasn't much. We met monthly for about an hour. The meetings were relatively straightforward. They stayed on time. They were respectful of our time, and we didn't have really a lot of tasks outside of the meetings. And so it wasn't really a lot of time commitment or an unnecessary burden on me. And so I encourage people who are out there maybe listening to this, if you are a member of the Dermatology Nurses Association, or maybe if you're a member of other professional organizations, to consider being a part of your board of directors or of some of the committees that are associated with your favorite organization. Because a lot of time, I think sometimes people are concerned about volunteering for things like that is because they're not sure of the time commitment. Now, I can't speak to other organizations. I can only speak to the Dermatology Nurses Association, but I can tell you that the time commitment wasn't much. So now I am a current director on the board of directors for the Dermatology Nurses Association. So now in like 1 year, I went from just being a peer reviewer, and then going to being on the editorial advisory board for the Dermatology Nurses Association for the JDNA, to being on the nominating committee, and having a small slate of responsibilities, to then being somewhat nominated, asked to be on the board of directors, and now moving up into a director position. So as a result of that, I am not going to be on the nominating committee anymore, but I'm still going to be being a director for the Dermatology Nurses Association. I still am a liaison for the board to the JDNA, which is perfect because I'm already on the JDNA editorial advisory board. And essentially what a liaison does is basically I attend the meetings of the committees and or other organizations or board meetings that the board assigns to me. So essentially I have assignments. So my assignment is to be the liaison to the Educational Advisory Committee and to the JDNA. So essentially what that means is that I will attend their monthly meetings, the Educational Advisory Committee, and I will attend the JDNA meetings that are bi-monthly. So as I already told you, I'm already going to the JDNA meetings. So that's not going to be above and beyond any responsibility that I've already had. Those meetings are bi-monthly and they're once a month. So that works out pretty well for me because it doesn't take up any undue time that I already wasn't committing myself to. As a part of the Educational Advisory Committee, I will follow and go to their meetings as well and be a liaison to them. And essentially the liaison comes to the meetings. I'm not really there, so to speak, as an active member of those committee meetings. I'm really there just to act as a communication, I guess you could say a communication funnel between the board of directors and that committee. So if something comes up that where they have a question or it needs to go back to the board, I would take those questions back to the board, create an action agenda item for our board of directors meeting, and then present that to the board either for discussion or for a vote. And so I'm still very new at this. So please don't get it twisted. I'm still very new to this. I've only been on the board of directors for a little over a month. We've only had one meeting. And so I'm kind of like molding myself into my new role. Thankfully, I have a very good mentor, Silvana Brickley. She's been on the board of directors already. She's a wonderful nurse practitioner. And we have met each other and we're working together through our mentee mentorship role. So I still have a lot to learn, but so far everything has been great. So my next meeting with the Educational Advisory Committee is actually coming up in this early part of April. So I will attend that meeting, but I am there really to attend almost like as a ghost. I'm not there to really participate and or interfere with that committee's business. However, if they have questions for the board, I would be the liaison there to communicate those answers for the board to their questions and or to facilitate that communication back and forth between our committee and the board of directors. And then once we have our board of directors meetings, I would communicate those needs to the larger board. So far that has been good. I initially actually wanted to, before I joined the nominating committee, I'd actually wanted to be a director for the board of directors. But to be honest, I really wasn't sure what that responsibility was. I mean, you look at the writing, right? Every time you look at a job description or you consider doing something like this, they give you your roles and responsibilities, and all that stuff sounds good on paper. But sometimes until you're actually in that role, you don't really know what those responsibilities are. And so I'll be honest with you, I was very fearful initially to run to be a director on the board of directors. And so I ran for the nominating committee because I also thought that would be equally interesting. I thought, I'll just go for the nominating committee. That sounds equally interesting. It doesn't sound like a lot of responsibility, and I'm not quite sure what my time commitment will be. And so I didn't want to push it. Well, once I got to the nominating committee, I realized it really wasn't that much work, and I probably could have and maybe should have ran for the directors, but that's okay. I fulfilled my commitment to the nominating committee, and now I actually got a chance, an opportunity to be on the board of directors. And so I'm saying that because I'm saying that sometimes maybe we might be a little fearful of doing things, but maybe through our fear of actually doing those things, when you do those things, it actually leads you to other opportunities. So if you're considering volunteering, again, definitely do it. The only way for you to know if you like it or what the commitment is actually to push yourself to do it and to actually fulfill that commitment and give your commitment to that and to see it through. And so I'm actually really excited that I'm on the board of directors. I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity to meet some of you out there, some of our membership within the DNA, to represent the Dermatology Nurses Association at functions, and to really have a hand or have a stamp on the direction of our organization, on what our membership is going to be able to participate in the level of education and level of educational experiences, professional networking experiences that our members will be a part of as a result of it. And so that's very exciting, but again, still very new. And so I say that so that you guys, if you're considering doing anything, just do it. I mean, it's not a lifelong commitment. Everybody usually wants to see their commitments through, but by chance that something happens and you're not able to, what I found being on these committees and being a part of these groups is that a majority of these groups can be very lenient if need be. They all understand that we're all working professionals, that we're all volunteering our time. And if you're just straight up and straightforward with them, a lot of times if things come up, things arise, family emergencies, health, work-related issues, it seems like they're very willing to work with you. So I would challenge you to not be worried about any of those things. And if it's something that you want to do, you should definitely do it. On another note, I actually also, around the same time, got an email from the Dermatology Nurse Practitioner Certification Board that they were looking for 2 directors for their board as well. Now, at the time, I had already committed that I was going to apply for the board of directors position for the Dermatology Nurses Association. So when the Dermatology Nurse Practitioner Certification Board of Directors position came up, I was actually torn because I really wanted to be a part of the Dermatology Nurse Practitioner Certification Board. I really wanted to find out how we write our certification exams. I have a minor in nursing education, so that really intrigues me a lot in terms of how we are educating our fellow nurse practitioners, how we, what the certification review process is like, how we come about writing the questions, how we come about measuring objectively that the questions are doing what they're supposed to do in terms of teaching us the things in the things that we are supposed to be taught. And so when that opportunity arose, since I had already committed myself to the board of directors, I still wanted to jump on the opportunity to be on the board for the certification board. I thought, right now, I have the time, I can make the commitment, and based on everything that I already knew, in terms of my other time commitments with the other committees that I was working on, I knew that I probably had the time to dedicate myself to that. And so I applied and I got it. And so I quickly went from being the peer reviewer on the editorial, an advisor on the editorial advisory board for the JDNA, to the nominating committee, to a director on the board of directors for the Dermatology Nurse Association, and now a director for the Dermatology Nurse Practitioner Certification Board. So I'm super excited about everything. I think it's going to be a fascinating and wonderful educational experience for me to see kind of how everything works. I am a dermatology certified nurse practitioner. I went through the review courses and everything about a year ago, which were super intense. I took the test, the certification exam, and I passed. And so I really wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of all of the things that make up the Dermatology Nurses Association and our certification exams, and really bringing all of that to life for our membership and for our profession. And so I really think that I have an opportunity to do that. And my whole theme and everything that I've been talking to you guys about essentially in this video is, just take a chance. Now, it's very possible that in about a month or so that I'm going to be completely overwhelmed and swamped with things to do, but that's okay. I take that challenge. I'm going to take it 100% head on, and because I've committed myself to it. And I really think that it's actually going to be beneficial for me in the long run to kind of go through all these things and learn all these things. I've always been a person who wanted to take more of a leadership position. And I just found that working at my 8:30 to 5 job at the clinic that I work at, those opportunities aren't there for me. A lot of the opportunities within my organization are more for physicians, to be quite honest. The majority of the physicians have opportunities for growth and for potential to move up, but not really a lot of opportunities for nurse practitioners and physician assistants. There really aren't any councils or committees or anything that we're involved in. And relative to the opposition, despite maybe some of our efforts to kind of put some of those things into place where maybe we have more of a say at the table, have largely gone unmet. And so I just realized, not that in a defeatist attitude, but I realized, I'm probably not going to get those leadership opportunities where I work. And so I need to seek those leadership opportunities elsewhere. And I just thought, well, what else or what better way to do that than to do it with my professional organization and to do it with some of the other opportunities that are before me and presented to me. And I'm a person who does not necessarily, I don't believe in coincidence. I think everything happens for a reason. I don't think that it's a coincidence that I was asked to be on the board of directors, and then I applied for that and I was qualified for that. I don't think it's a coincidence that within a day of me submitting my acceptance for the director position to be on the board of directors for the DNA, that I got an email looking for people to be directors for the DNPCB. So I took my chance. I took the opportunity to go ahead and do that. And so I'm super excited. And so I'm saying all of this again. I feel like I'm kind of I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit, but I'm saying this because I want you guys all to consider taking on these leadership positions. Oftentimes, as nurses, if we're not at the table, if we're not at the dinner table, then we are the dinner. And so I've heard that expression so much, and I felt that expression so much. Not being involved in some of the clinical decision making when it comes to the organization I work with, or not being involved in that organizational structure, or really, nobody asking your feedback on how things go, things that happen with your staff, things that happen with the day-to-day clinical operations of my office specifically, when I have the experience of doing some of those things. I used to be a charge nurse. I was a clinic manager. I was an office manager of a family practice, of a busy clinic, of other staff and other employees. I know how some of that administrative stuff works because I was that person. So it's frustrating to not get sometimes people that value your opinion or advice on things, and to kind of essentially be told to stay in your lane, be the provider, do the clinic part, let us do the administrative part. And that's fine, because I like to do the clinic part, but I would love for people to recognize us also as having those leadership capabilities and those skills. We're not just providers. Excuse me. We're not just providers. We are professionals that have a lot of skills at a lot of things oftentimes. And sometimes they're not always utilized. We're not always utilized to our best abilities, despite the fact that we have those abilities. And so because of that, for me, I didn't feel professionally fulfilled at my job, just at my workplace, doing what I do at my workplace. And so I really wanted to step out and do something more. So I encourage you all to step out and do something more. Go out, be great. Don't be afraid to do what it is that you want to do. Don't be afraid to take that leap. There's always people that are out there that are willing to mentor you, that are willing to guide you, that are willing to coach you. There are always opportunities out there. And I'm hoping that these opportunities that I am now involved in lead me to other networking opportunities, to meet great people, to travel, to learn new things, to learn about processes and systems, and, how a board works, and how those, what happens in those day-to-day meetings in terms of making those decisions for a larger organization. And so my encouragement for all of you comes from my passion for what it is that I do. And I hope that all of you do the same. So if you have any questions, you can always email me, Dr. Keisha Cash at dnpderm.org. You can follow me here on my YouTube page. I'm going to be posting a lot more videos, giving you guys updates on things that I'm doing. I can't talk about all the things that happen on the board and in the board meetings, but I can give you guys some little tidbits of information, some little sneak peeks about things that might be happening in the background, upcoming events, upcoming conferences. So keep watch, subscribe to the channel, please. I would definitely appreciate that. Hit me up on my Instagram at DNPDerm. I also have a Facebook at DNPDerm, but I usually use my Instagram a little bit more. Leave comments here on the video. Tell me what it is you want me to talk about, things that you want to hear, whether it be topics. I'm not going to just talk about leadership things. I'm going to be talking about maybe new trends in dermatology. Definitely going to be doing some courses, maybe throwing up some lectures, things like that for you guys to see and hear. And then anything else that might be new and exciting that might be good tidbits for all of you to kind of help you advance your career and hopefully enhance your professional growth. So that's it for right now. I'm glad that you guys are here on my channel. Hopefully, I'll be able to keep you engaged, and I look forward to talking to you. So, I hope you guys all have a happy April Fool's Day, and I'll see you guys later. All right. So enjoy your weekend, everybody. All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.